Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today we're interviewing Reverend Dr. Evelyn Rainey. Evelyn is an ordained minister, author, and publisher whose scholarship and ministry bridge Protestant, Celtic, Coptic Catholic, and Jewish traditions. As CEO of ShelteringTree.Earth, LLC, she leads a traditional publishing house and its hybrid publishing imprint, August Isley Books. She's the author of numerous works, including 8 ChristLit Book Award winners and a pioneer of dyslexia-friendly editions.
Ken's going to be asking her a little bit more about those dyslexia-friendly editions later on. A graduate of Esoteric Interfaith Seminary, Doctor of Practical Theology, PhD in Religious Studies, Master of Sacred Theology, and Florida Southern College, where she got a BS in elementary and early childhood education. Evelyn integrates academic depth with hands-on experience. She facilitates the social justice ministry and directs senior adult programs at one church and is a guest preacher at a local retirement community. With over 4 decades as an educator in everything from elementary classrooms to alternative youth centers and years as a full-time caregiver and legal guardian, Evelyn brings compassionate insight to her writing, publishing, and pastoral work. Her lifelong mission is to empower individuals to weave spiritual depth into everyday life. Isn't that a lovely mission? Evelyn has 21 books, 4 audiobooks, and she hosts several podcasts of her own as well, including Authors in the Shade, The Ambitious Author's Guide, and Harmonious Liturgy, a 3-year journey. We are so honored and thrilled to welcome you, Evelyn, to Midwest Writers Room. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
We are absolutely delighted to have you. Although I gotta say, Luella, I feel severely lazy and undereducated just going through that background. It's like, good
Yeah,
Lord,
we're
what
going
have
to
I done
spend
with
this
my
whole
life?
episode asking Evelyn how she does it all.
Yes. Apparently, she's able to carve out 38 seconds for us out of everything else that she's got going on her schedule. So we better make the most of it. So, Evelyn, before we delve into, I think, your more professional life as a publisher, we want to talk about you, right? Get to know Evelyn, the person, and specifically from your writing background. Trace back your author's path, what I like to call your origin story. So let's talk about that. When did you really know you're going to be a writer? Kind of what set you on that trail?
I was in third grade, and my father had just returned from Vietnam, and every night he read us stories. And he would get to the middle of the book, and then he'd say the end, and we'd say, "No, Dad, there's more to come." And he would just, if he would start a book, he would just make up the rest of the story the way he wanted it to be. And so he taught me that you can create your own stories as you go along. And I thought that was so much fun and a little aggravating because it wasn't the book. But third grade, I decided I can write. I can do this. I can tell stories. And I used to get into trouble because I was very good at telling stories. And then I was able to write them down. And so since third grade, I knew one day I was going to be a writer. But then by 2001, things happened, and I realized I can spend the rest of my life saying, one day I will, or I can be. And so I decided in 2001 that I'm not putting this off any longer. I'm going to do what it takes to be an author, to be a published author. So all of the nights that I spent writing and writing and writing while my son was asleep, and any spare time I would write, I finally decided, okay, stop playing at this. Do what it takes and become published. And within 5 years, I was actively in charge of a writers group, and I was pitching books right and left to all sorts of publishers. And that's when you shift from one day I will to I am, and that made all the difference. And so since I have published one book a year at least, and I plan to do that for the next 50 years.
So as we kind of went through your bio, I think the fact that you said, I'm going to do this, and within 5 years I've achieved it, should be the least surprising aspect of your background. I mean, clearly you set your mind to something and you get it done and you find the bandwidth to do it. So kudos to you. So let me ask you, your books, I mean, there seems to be a favored genre, obviously, and that, ties into a lot of your spiritual bent on that. Was that always a genre for you, or what did you grow up reading? What did you like when you grew up?
I grew up reading science fiction and fantasy. Um, and so this was science fiction was huge in the 70s, and it was something that I could discuss with my brother, who's absolutely brilliant, and with my father, who loved to read everything. And it was rare in the 70s for a girl to like science fiction. But it was fun because I could take an issue and I could write it any way I wanted to, and I didn't have to research the actual history. And then I realized later, yeah, you really do need to know history to write science fiction. But I loved writing science fiction. I loved writing fantasy. And then I got a little bored. I get bored easily. And I tried my hand at historical fiction. And that went really well because I did all of the research and I discovered I really love doing research. And then it progressed. I decided, well, let me try lots of different genres. And just recently, with my being ordained, come to find out I needed to write sermons. And so as I was writing sermons, I thought, gee, these would make nice little books. And so they're called A Message by Evelyn. It's a whole series of those. And so I knocked those off, at least I have a whole bunch of them that haven't been published yet. But I think I'll get back to writing fiction. I love that. The book that I used as my dissertation, I published it. It's Two Hands, Eight Modalities in a Journal, and it's nonfiction. It's how do you look at the world, and if you're right-handed, how do you look at it from a left-handed's point of view, and vice versa. And so my favorite still remains science fiction. As far as watching or reading, my favorite is cozy mystery murders, but I can't write them because I already know what the answer is. And so I don't do that tease out your audience well. So there we go.
All right. So I'm going to take like a 1 minute quick deviation. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You get 3 books or 3 series to take with you to read forever on a remote island from your youth. What are you taking?
What am I taking? Okay. The books by Rachel Carson, beginning with Silent Spring. That was a life-changing book for me. And then I went on to read all of her books, to the point that my yard is certified by the National Wildlife Federation as a natural habitat. So anything by Rachel Carson. I read The Lord of the Rings about every 5 years. So I love those. I would take those with me because every time I read them, I find something new. I find something astonishing, and so that would be good. And the third series, or Louis L'Amour. I've read everything that he's written. It speaks to characters and men who are men and women who are women and people who don't fit in anywhere, but they're who they want to be. And he writes Westerns and he writes science fiction. And so I love the character studies within anything by Louis L'Amour. That would keep me busy for a while.
That would, especially Louis L'Amour. He was rather prolific.
Yes.
All right. So let's loop back and talk a little bit about this dyslexia-friendly editions of books. When I saw that in your description, I confess I have no idea what that is or how that works. Talk us through that.
People, thank you. This is something I'm extremely proud of and pleased about. If you have dyslexia, you have a difficulty processing things visually. So if you have a string of words written and it just went across the screen the wrong way, left to right, and you're supposed to read it left to right, your brain doesn't process it that way. You skip words, your letters flip, and these are children that are noticed by third grade. They're brilliant children. They just can't read. They don't see the same string of words that other people see. So they've been given different labels throughout the centuries, but now it's called dyslexic. If you walk into a room and you go to turn on the light and you go this way to turn on the light, but your light switch is on this side of the room, you're dyslexic. There's just that and everybody's smiling. I love that because we all do that. We sometimes our brain just doesn't process in the same way that it could be. And so I have a wonderful author. I thank God for sending Roland Kinnison to me. And he wrote a wonderful book. And then he contacted me one day and he said, listen, I've got some dear friends that are dyslexic and they want to read my book, but they can't. What would you think if I transplant, it's not translated, but it made it into dyslexic friendly. There are dyslexic friendly fonts that are available just now. They're wider at the bottom and they're spread out a little bit more and they're a little bit taller. And so it's easier to track because the letters are weighted at the bottom and spread out more and spaced better. It's easier for them to read that and to follow along. Also, we take colored overlays and we put it over the paper, and that helps people with dyslexia read it better because it makes a different contrast. So Roland Kinnison is the one that came up with this idea, and I said, okay, go for it. And he did. He just took it and ran with it, and he's wonderful. He's right there. He says, Evelyn, what do you think? And I say, this is wonderful, but, and it's got to where we've done almost all of our children's books in dyslexic friendly, and we're marketing those to all of the schools, because if you're reading as second grade, third grade, and you can't read it, it just makes no sense. You're going to lose interest. And we want to make lifelong learners, and we want people to love books like all of your audience does. We love books, and I want to share that with other people. So we've done almost all of the children's books, and we're getting into the adult books. And he transposed Diane Everett's poetry book, and she called me and she said, Evelyn, my daughter just showed up at my door and threw her arms around me and said, Mama, I can read your book, because she was dyslexic. And so it is just so wonderful that we're throwing doors open to people who love to read. We sell more dyslexic friendly books than the rest of the books combined sometimes. And so it's to help people who love to read be able to read. I love it.
Wow, that is absolutely fascinating. Like I said, I never even considered or knew that there was a dyslexia-friendly font available even. So learn something new every day. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and move over into the business side, the CEO portion of Evelyn Rainey. So Sheltering Tree Media August Isley Books. Kind of talk us through the genesis. I mean, why did you initially start a publishing house? What gap were you trying to fill?
I love being a published author. I loved going to author signings, book signings. I loved answering letters from fans. I loved being a published author. And then COVID hit, and I had to retire from teaching to take care of my mother full time. And she was bedridden and housebound. And I realized I'm going to, this is not good. I'm just sitting here without anything to do. And so I I thought about my love of being an author, and I wanted to share that love with other people. And I thought, well, I will start a publishing house to help other people to find the joy of being a published author. So I did. I spent a whole year doing all of the research I could on how do you publish, what's the industry standards, what's this, what's that, what's the other. I did good research, and I'm still doing good research. And in 2021, I started ShelteringTree.Earth LLC, and I published Diane Everett and Punit Hans and several others. And I learned from this, and I learned from it, and we grew and we expanded, and people would show up in my life that were going to be authors. My mother's CNA, Tiff Boot, she came every day to take care of my mother. She is my best-selling author. She's won so many different awards, and she had never published a book before. And so it was just God was flinging doors open for me. About 41 authors. We've published hundreds of books, not hundreds. Sorry, I'm exaggerating for effect. At least 100 books, and dyslexic-friendly books. And we're going into translations. One of my newest authors is Italian, and so he translated his book into English, and we published that. And now we're going to translate his book back into Italian. And so we're expanding with dyslexia and with languages. And along the way, you don't really make money as a traditional publisher, because traditional publishers make money based on how well the books sell. And I love my authors, and the great writers, but they don't know how to market. And so I was not making money to maintain the publishing house, and I didn't want to quit it. Most publishing houses only last 3 years. And so I thought, how can I make money? And so August Isley Books came through. We parcel out the things that people want to do. It's a hybrid publisher. So if all you need is to have someone to help you write your query, you can go there and you can pay, and he'll help you do the query. If all you want is somebody that helps you do all of the citations in a book and research, who said what, when, and in what book, you can hire August Isley Books to do that. They can do commercials for you. They can do all sorts of things for you. You just pick and choose, or they can publish your whole book. And so August Isley Books was the hybrid that I created to help pay for the love of my life, which is the traditional publishing. And it's doing well. And it's working. People that want to just buy bits and pieces are very happy with that. And so it's going well.
That's
there.
great to hear. Nice pivot too. You recognized a need, something coming up, and you pivoted to it. So very impressive. All
I
right,
just
Llewellyn.
want to add too, I find it fascinating that you have this thing that you love, the publishing, traditional publishing house, and could see that it needed more, help to survive and came up with a plan, this hybrid model on the other side to kind of help pay for it. I just think that's really brilliant. Good use of resources.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, absolutely. All
Good.
right, Llewellyn, should we dive into our WWA message?
You bet.
All right, folks, if you're thinking about joining the fall session of virtual critique classes, do not wait to sign up. One track is already filled and several others are close. WWA member registration runs through July 31st, so get your name now to save a spot. Learn more at wiwrite.org underneath the Writing Programs menu.
All right, we are back again. Evelyn, we are going to talk a little bit now on behalf of our listeners, who are many, many writers out there. We always like to pick our guest brains and ask for advice. And given your interesting history and your publishing credentials, we're really excited to ask you about your advice. So let's just start out with some general advice overall that you have for writers. What do you got for us?
One of the things about authors is they're very good at being an author and they're really lousy at marketing. They like staying by themselves and writing. It's a very, very personal, very isolated role. And then when you have to market it, you actually have to relinquish that baby out into the world and let people change it and let people comment on it. And if you're not comfortable with that, then understand you're not comfortable getting your book published. I love that you have critiques. I love that authors can come and they can discuss and they can learn how to improve their skills, because some authors, and I had one, believed I've written it down and nothing should be changed. Well, okay, sweetie, I'm not going to publish the book then. You've got to be able to relinquish it to the world, and you've got to learn how to get along with other people and to realize that you know how to write a book, and that is wonderful. That is such a gift. But if you're going to a publisher, they know how to publish, and it is two separate things. It really is. So that's huge. Do your research. Do not send a query letter that says I've got the next masterpiece and it's 1,200 words. No, it's not. That's not a book. Understand what you've got. I've had people that have sent me books and they'll say, oh, it's a time travel historical fiction with, vampires and science fiction and everything mixed in, and it's a mystery. Okay, no, choose one. Choose. Tell me what genre you are writing. And if you don't know what that is, go research it. Everything is at the tips of your fingertips nowadays. Type in there, what genre is this, if it's got all of these things. Because when you pitch to an editor or an agent or a publisher, your little email has 15 seconds to make or break your book. And so know what you're writing, know how long it is. I have people tell me it's 250 pages. That tells me nothing. You got to tell me how many words it is. And people are like, well, I learned that in high school. Yes. And you probably still call that little key on there the return key instead of the enter key. Be aware of the business side that you're going into. Yes, it's a wonderful story. Now, how do you promote it? So know what you're writing. If I say and I do on my writer's guidelines, exactly how I expect you to send stuff to me. Follow the directions. They're not there to see if you know what all of these things are. They're there to see, can you follow directions? Are we going to work together well?
Can I just
Because,
jump in
yeah,
and say that in our very small but growing WWA Press, we also have a surprising amount of people, and even with our contests, Ken, you've seen it, where people just do not follow the instructions. And I'm telling you, writers, if you can just follow the instructions, you're going to already be ahead of the game.
yes, absolutely. It's just, you're a writer. That means you should read. And so, yes, absolutely. It's amazing to me. We contract the author. I I know your book is wonderful and that's great and you're a good writer, but if you and I cannot build a relationship that's going to last the 12 years of our contract, there are 100 people a week that want to have that relationship with me. If your writers want to win that award, do what it takes. And if you're not willing to do what it takes, step out of the way and let somebody step forward that can. So those were some of my advice. Um, oh, one more thing, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. I don't care that your grandmother likes your book. I really don't care that your children think it's the most wonderful thing in the world. They are fed by you. They get their Christmas presents from you. They are not going to upset you and say, Mom, this really doesn't sound good. So understand if they've got an interest in keeping you happy, they're not going to give you an honest critique, but do get honest critiques. Join a writer's group that doesn't criticize your writing, but actually says, I understood this. What did you mean by that? I liked this. Have you considered changing that? And so join one or two writers groups. Understand whose opinion matters. And if you say, well, everybody in my beta group says that this should be, you're wrong, and that this word should be this. My question is, and are they published authors? Are they editors? What gives them the authority to give you this advice? And so just understand whose opinions matter and learn from them. Don't just have people that like what you've got. The first writers group that I joined in 2004, I read a story and everyone went around the table, and there must have been 15 people there. And every single one of them said, that was nice. That was really nice. Wasn't that nice? That was a nice story. And it was like, no, tell me what. Help. Yeah. So join a group that can actually help you and actually know what they're talking about and will help you move forward to where you see your book should be. Okay.
Those are all really great and helpful. Thank you for that. Can we turn quickly to more specific advice on how to approach traditional presses? Um, do you have any, I don't know, hot topics or things that you find yourself, repeating over and over again to your clients and potential clients, author clients?
Okay. Yes. One of the main things is don't send me something that has not been edited. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and hire someone. I'm saying sit down, take care of all of the little squiggly red lines and all of the little squiggly blue lines, and read what I want. I want Times New Roman. I want it double space, which I'll change later. I want an indent of 5 points. and I do not want the additional spaces between the paragraphs. Now, that's not what anybody else wants. That's what I want. And if you don't know how to do that, learn how to do that, but also know how to use your Word document, know how to change your font, know how to do spelling checkers. If you send me something and I'm looking at it, and even if it's the most wonderful story in the world, but I know that I'm going to have to spend $3,000 editing it because I do pay 2 cents per word, which is industry standard to have something professionally edited. How much time is this going to take me to do that? So look at what a good author should know. They should know how to spell. They should know grammar. Please don't use certain programs that are AI harvesters. Know which ones those are, and I'm not going to say them. Know which ones those are. And for my publishing house, you can't use AI. Just especially for my children's books and illustrations. But if you're going to use AI, I'm going to check it. But for heaven's sakes, delete the AI fonts. I mean, I know you copied pasted this from AI because that's the line that they use, that Copilot uses. Just believe in yourself and then do what it takes to become a professional author. And one last thing, I'm sorry. No, you're not going to make $1 million. You're just not. If you want to make $1 million, you have to find a way to market your book. And you may be able to make $1 million if you market it well, but yelling at your publisher when you get your first royalty check for $300 really is not helpful. Okay, so understand your expectations, do your research. It'll tell you, expected royalties on this kind of book sold through a small or medium traditional press. This is what you should expect. If you want something else, find a different publisher. There are so many of them. We have a very staunch rule against profanity or violence. And to me, profanity is verbal violence. And I still have people sending me things with, and it's like, it's right there on the guidelines. What are you doing? And and if you've sent something to me, and one of the things, I never reject your book. That's horrible. Hated those. But I will say, thank you so much for sharing. We are going to decline the opportunity to publish your book. We're not rejecting you. We're not rejecting your book. We're just declining the opportunity to publish it. And don't argue with me about it then. but no, don't do that. Understand it and take it to another publishing house. There are a whole bunch of them. And so, but if you understand who we are, and Lou, as you said, if they understand who you are, when you submit, if you've done due diligence and you've done it through the expectations, you stand a much better chance of being accepted. And so that's what I'm going to say. You've spent 5 years writing this masterpiece. Now take 5 weeks or 5 months to do your research to see where your book best fits.
Thank you. That was all very helpful advice. And now I think I would like to turn to the special sauce question, which is, as we know, my favorite. Our special sauce question is always something about you that makes you a little bit different, something usually outside of the reading, writing life. What do you got for us, Evelyn?
Okay. I think I started out that I'm redheaded and blue-eyed, and that's 2% of the world.
Already unique.
Um, one of the things about me that can either make or break a friendship is I'm a strategist. I look at a problem and innately, or, you know, boots to the ground, I can work out how to solve the situation. And I love doing it to the point that I'm geeky in this, I look at not only what the situation is, what your options are, how much is it going to cost. I look at all of the factors in there and the time, and I plot you out a whole strategy to solve the problem. And that didn't make a lot of friends. It's fun. It keeps me busy, sometimes keeps me out of trouble. And I love solving problems. I really do. And not just problems, but anything. And my books are this way because I always start my books with what if? And then the whole rest of the book is a strategy towards answering that. So that makes me, I think, very unique. Not everyone is going to understand your uniqueness. And at some point in your life, you're going to have to say, okay, that's fine.
Very,
So
very sage advice right there. All right. So, how about telling our listeners and viewers out there where they can find you? You are physically located in Florida, correct?
I am in Central Florida. I have 2.5 acres. And like I said, it's certified as a natural habitat. And I love it. Which Central Florida, where I live, it's about an hour south of Disney. So if that lets you know. My, excuse me, ShelteringTree.Earth is the proper title of my publishing company. Our website is ShelteringTreeMedia.com. And you can just type that in, all one word. And there's pretty much links to everything from there, including links to AugustIsleyBooks.com, or it's August Isley Books. I have my own website, EvelynRainey.com. I try to keep things as simple as possible, but I also have a spiritual website called St. Bridget's Well. And St. Bridget is one of the most fascinating people that I've ever studied. She was a contemporary of Patrick in Ireland, but she started universities for men and women. And so I'm fascinated by her. So that's my spiritual website, is stbridgetswell.com. If I can be found wherever there's really good Thai food. I love Thai food.
Speaking of which, we need to loop back to something. Tell us what your favorite crunchy vegetable is called.
Bacon.
Bacon,
Because
bacon, bacon, bacon.
I am a vegetarian, not necessarily by choice. I've never liked red meat. And when I took one of the immunizations for COVID, one of the side effects is that you become severely allergic to chicken and farm raised fish. And so by default, I'm a vegetarian, but every now and then I just have to have that bacon.
I had to ask her about that, listeners. She wrote something like that in the script, and it was so cute. But she's mostly a vegetarian, but she can't ever give up her favorite crunchy vegetable, bacon.
And she has just joined millions of us across the country who worship on the altar of bacon. Luella, how about we dive into some good news?
We would love to celebrate with you. So please email us your good news at podcast@wiwrite.org. We're going to start with a shout out to WWA member and past Midwest Writers Room guest G. Anthony, who has edited and curated A State of Healing, a Wisconsin anthology bringing together writers from across the state to share their reflections on recovery, growth, and community. He's holding a release event coming up on Saturday, August 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. under the dome at the Oshkosh Public Library. Congrats to you, G. Ken, what do you got for us?
And I'll actually second my congratulations to G. Looking forward to it. So my good news, Luella is aware of this, and I think I mentioned on the program before, when my kids graduate high school, I write a book starring them. And it started with my daughter when she was into the whole Walking Dead scene. So it's all about in a zombie apocalypse, but I call them ghouls instead. So I just finally published the final installment of the Ghoul trilogy because my youngest son has graduated high school. And this one stars him and his girlfriend, Ella, who also happens to be a redhead with very bright blue eyes. And so that came out, published out. Even though they're a friends and family type book, I still list them on Amazon because some of the parents have gone by them. And the title of this book, which I'm very, very proud of, I don't know, my wife is so proud of it, but the title of this book is called Ghouls Gone Wild. And so I'm looking forward to giving it to him when we have a graduation party. How about you, Evelyn? What do you got for good news for us?
Good. As I mentioned, my yard is a natural habitat. And the other day I was out walking around and I happened to see a red-winged blackbird. Now, y'all are thinking, okay, yeah, but it's important. These are very rare now. They used to be by the millions in Florida, and they're very, very rare because they've lost their habitat and because of horrible pesticides. And so this was the first time in 7 years that I have seen a red-winged blackbird. And I was so excited, and it means hope. You know, we're not gonna totally destroy us after all. So that was good.
Wow, that is very cool. How about you, Luella?
So I'm going to share something that's kind of personal that happened to me recently. So I had this old storage unit that I had not looked at in probably 15 years, and I finally got around to emptying it out, and I found all of these how to write books buried in this storage unit. And I thought that was really kind of something, books that, you know, this dream of mine has been around forever, and it felt kind of bittersweet because a whole bunch of life stuff happened to me back then, and there was no time to play with art back then. But, you know, here it is all these years later, and I am just, I don't know, happy to be here. And I felt, Evelyn, when you said something like shifting from one day I will to just being it, I feel like that has, seeing all those books in that storage unit really reminded me that that life is now here. Yay. And
Yay.
So that's my happy news. I get to celebrate writers with Ken and hang out with great art, and it's a dream come true. So.
Wonderful.
All right, listeners, that's podcast at wiwrite.org. If you would like to share your good news, Ken and I would love to hear from you and give you a shout out on the pod.
I want to thank Evelyn for stopping by today to join us on the show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star rating in your podcast app of choice. This is the type of action that helps everybody else find us, helps us grow the program. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Ramirez C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.